Let's see if it works. Yes. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. We have Lauren Slane is going to share with us the BPC plan that the college has worked on. And I believe Colleen is going to also support. Yes, okay,
yeah,
great.
Co-presentation.
Co-presentations to share with us about the BPC plan, excuse me, and what it entails and what it covers. And we'll have a lively discussion about this as we go. I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you have a question, you want to pose it in there, I'll make sure that they are able to see that. So Lauren, are you ready? Can you share your screen? It looks like you need access.
She might need to be a co-host. Do you want to do that? Or
yes.
Okay.
How do I do that?
I know how. I'll do it.
Okay. While we're live,
I can't. Go into the participants menu. If you click on participants at the bottom of the screen, and that'll pull up a right-hand drawer. On the right-hand drawer, go to her name where it says more. Click on more, and it'll say make co-host.
And maybe I'll drive Lauren since I've got the poll everywhere.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you make Colleen co-host?
Colleen, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Co-host. You can be both be co-hosts. We can just How you doing, Audrey? Have you found it?
My screen keeps changing. So I'm not sure.
You have the participants window open?
I do. And
do you have a list of participants?
I do. I see a list.
And do you see Colleen?
I do, but it says
if you hover over her name, it'll say more in blue.
I've got the more. It says chat, stop video, pin, spotlight, rename, allow to record local files. I don't see anything about sharing.
Making co-host.
Doesn't say that.
Ebony, are you still here?
Yes.
Ebony, could you make Colleen a co-host?
Okay.
Thanks.
Did it have any relationship to the recording that they don't want you to change? That's really weird. But my Zoom is forcing me to quit and update, so I try to delay it. If it automatically kick me out, I will be back after 2 minutes. It's really weird.
Understood. Mine did that this morning, so happily before I was here. So
do you need help with this?
Yes, because my edit is grayed out.
Your edit is grayed out?
Yes.
You don't have the more button next to Colleen's name?
Let me see.
You're the host. So if you hover over her name in the participants window.
Okay.
Maybe Audrey can control the slides if you just say next.
Yeah, that would be
Let her,
fine.
if you share the link to Google Slides, and then Audrey can do the next.
If you want to pop that in the chat. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. Let me authenticate.
Colleen, is this going to work with the poll?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll probably just see Audrey's answers.
Okay.
She won't be logged in as the host, but that is okay. And if it doesn't work, everyone can just say, this doesn't work, and we'll just abandon.
Colleen, your co-host. Colleen, your co-host.
I found it.
It worked. Okay.
Sorry. I found it.
Right.
Okay. Yes. Okay. It looks like I can share screen. Perfect. Okay. Now let's do presentation. All right. So I think I am.
Yes, we can see the slides. Yes.
Yay.
Yes, we can.
All right. Great. Lauren, do you want to say the quick hello and what we're going to do today?
Sure. So as Mary Lou brought up, Manuel last week gave a presentation on our college's broadening participation and computing plan that got approved by CRA and NSF. And he talked a lot about like how they are used within the NSF proposals and what that looks like. And we do have that presentation. If anybody wants it, who's on this call, who wasn't able to attend that, I can share that out with you. But we also wanted to do another presentation about our broadening participation and commuting, so like our plan, but then really go over the activities that we identified. We meaning it was Colleen, Ahmed, Emily, and myself. And then, you know, that's kind of what today will look like. So we're going to be talking about the activities, things that you can do as faculty to engage with this plan, and talk about it a little bit more broadly than just in the scope of using it with NSF proposals, because we know that's not how not everybody applies for those or puts in grants proposals for those types of grants. So Colleen, you want to start us off with our activity?
Yeah, so we just decided to have a fun little activity. A lot of this is about supporting students. So we have just this little 4-question poll everywhere about know your students. Maybe you know it wonderfully. Maybe, you know, the numbers will surprise you. We have a lot more information than this, but this is just kind of a little teaser. So if you go to this site, polev.com/C-Karnas, that's C-K-A-R-N-A-S. We will go ahead and start that. It'll ask you, give yourself a name. It doesn't have to be a real name. You can give a nickname or whatever it is just for fun.
Can you put the link in the chat? That way people don't have to type it wrong the first time. Thank you.
Perfect. I don't remember if I'm sharing a screen or my tab, so let me stop sharing and I'll reshare the activity. All right. So this is just a fun, if you've done poll everywheres in your classes, give me a thumbs up, at least have a few people been able to log in.
I'm in, but I can't see the questions.
As soon as I put my name in, I then go to a blank black screen that says know your students overall. Oh, there we go.
Okay, yeah. So it just hasn't started. Perfect. All right, great. So what we'll do is it's timed. You'll get a question. Just throw a guess out there and we'll see. You get more points for the faster you answer. It's like that show, what's your line or whatever. Points don't matter. So we'll go ahead and see who knows their students. So the first question, 32% of our undergraduate CS population reported learning a computer programming language before college. When just our undergraduate women were polled, how many reported learning a computer language before college? So overall, 32% reported learning a language before college. How many of the women reported learning? And 3, 2, 1. So 50%. Okay, so we're actually better than people expected. Awesome. So about 20% of the women undergraduate population polled said they had a programming language before college. Okay, great. So our women are doing better than we expected. And we have DP is on top. Great job, DP.
We only see our answer, whether we are correct or not. We didn't see the distribution.
Oh, can you not see my screen?
Oh, I was looking at the chat screen. I mean, the poll everywhere screen.
Yeah, we
have to flip back.
Then I will let you know.
Okay.
50% thought it was 10%, and the second winning guess was 20%. At 30% said 20%. So I will give the answers then. Thank you, Mary Lou. All right, our next question. As of spring 2023, what percentage of our students, again, undergraduates, enrolled in computer science undergraduate program BA or BS, reported that they were a first generation college student in their family? So how many are reporting that they are first gen? 3, 2, 1. And the answers are 40% guessed 30% of our students are first gen, 40% guessed that 25% of our students are first gen. Actually, the answer is 15% are reporting themselves as first gen, and no one guessed that. So actually these numbers, about 30%, that's more like our Pell Grants. That's kind of a number I have. Our Pell Grants are around mid 30%, but our first gens are surprisingly low at 15%. And we have DPs still at the top with Rabbit next and Guess 463 coming out as number 3. All right, third, we have got 4 questions. The third question, as of spring 2023, what percentage of our students enrolled in the computer science undergraduate program, BA or BS, were 25 years or older? Oh, I forgot to give you the choices. There you go. 25 years or older in the undergraduate. Three, 2, 1. All right, the correct answer is 14%. That is a really high number. Most people guessed 6% or 24 years or older. So there is a quick drop off. We don't have that many 60-year-olds, but it's a big group. Anywhere from 24 years old up to 80 or whatever is in that group. And that's 14%, probably more than expected. So 30% of people guessed correct. All right, last question. And we still have Rabbit on top. Dang, whoever Rabbit is, you are killing it. Actually, DP was on top. Rabbit kind of came in for the lead. Our last question, on a survey, on a recent survey, 33% of undergraduate computer science programs at other institutions, not us, these are other, meaning doctoral granting computer science institutions. So 33% of the undergraduate students reported completing the course AP Computer Science A in high school. How many of our CCI students report taking AP Computer Science A in high school? So we're comparing ourselves against other institutions. This is the last question. Three, 2, 1. So how do we compare to others? The answer is, wow, y'all did great. We guessed right. 13% of our students report taking AP Computer Science A before going into high school. So that actually was a good guess, everyone. Some people guessed 20%, but 13% was the correct answer. So we are significantly different. That is a statistical significant difference in that. So, oh, wow, guessed 468, stole it, stole number 1. Rabbit came in second, and DP had a strong showing at the beginning, but ended up third. So thank you everyone for playing the game. I think the point of this game is we have a lot of information. If you ever want to put that into your research, we have a ton of survey data. We've got a ton of information from Banner. Some things we don't have, but it's always worth asking. So I'll go ahead and go back to the presentation. So thank you all. Go ahead. Whoops. Lauren already mentioned, do you have anything to add for the BPC?
Yeah, just a couple comments. So part of this activity too, that I love that Colleen's developed, and she's done this a few times using different questions too. So it can be used in a lot of different ways to get to know our students, depending on the type of information you're looking for. But also is that when you're creating a broadening participation and computing plan, you need to, first identify the context we're in. And so for NSF and Computing Research Association, referred to as CRA, they really keep broadening participation bounded within what groups that they have identified as underrepresented in computing. So this includes persons with disabilities, Black, African American, Hispanic, Latinx, American Indians, Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, Island Pacific Islanders. It's a women, but it's a fairly narrow definition. So for us, you know, as a college, you know, we can think beyond that scope of what, you know, who should we reach out to broaden participation. And so we can think of other groups. So for example, questions like a question Colleen brought up was first generation college students. We also can think about other student groups like LGBTQ plus identity, students coming from a rural area versus urban. So, you know, there's a lot of different characteristics and groups that we can reach beyond the scope of the BPC plan that we're going to be talking about today.
Great. What we're going to do here, we've got 7 activities that we have identified for the BPC plan, and we're going to go through and literally maybe 2 minutes per plan. We just want to kind of wet your whistle and kind of encourage you at the end of this presentation. Could you talk more about number 4, or you can email us if you want more information about a particular activity. So it's going to be fast, but please ask questions later. I'll go ahead and start. Ignore the left side. This is the wording for the BPC plan, which you all have access to. In fact, Lauren can probably drop the link to the website, would be great. So ignore that. That's just there if we need to refer to it. Look at the right side of the screen. These are the to-dos. So the first activity is data collection and analysis. If this is something you're interested in, we're really talking about DFW rates. Contact me. I will put you on a DFW distribution list, and we will make this part of kind of a semester activity where you kind of get probably anonymized. We don't want to, you know, this particular section, but we can give some information, share some DFW distribution information. You'll get that data each semester. Then what we have is basically a Google Doc that we want people actually commenting on the data instead of just sending it out into a black hole. We want your thoughts, your analysis. If this is something you're working on through research, please kind of make sure that this gets back to us. And then in the summer, we have an annual meeting to discuss strategies and implementation. So you can see there's a few different levels of involvement. So please get involved. That's one way to get involved with this data information. And next is Lauren.
Sure. And I did want to let everybody know that I did drop in the chat a link to the CCI DI page. And there's also a sublink there that this goes directly to for faculty and staff resources. And in there, there's a button to get to the Departmental BPC Plan. So as mentioned, as Colleen said, on the left-hand side, it's talking about the goals and then the actual activities that can connect to these goals. So for this second activity is student affinity organizations. We really thought about activities that are already happening in the college, and then ways so that could be a little bit more broad and more faculty involvement can happen if people are interested. Part of creating a BPC plan is also, you'll notice when you look through the actual plan, there's a contact name. And so that contact is there as somebody who can help you. So if you are interested in getting involved in student affinity organizations, for example, then you could reach out to me for information about this, or just to find out what are the current student orgs, for example, in CCI right now that are maybe focusing on like specific affinity groups. So some of the to-dos is be part of creating an affinity group that you see as a gap in the college. Marla Mejias actually has been recently doing this with an organization, I believe it's Blacks in Technology. You can do that as well if there's a national organization and you want to work on a chapter being at UNC Charlotte. That's certainly a possibility to do. You can also be an advisor for a student organization that we currently have. Also, if there happens to be like a lapse in leadership potentially. Another way is to get students involved within affinity groups that focus on broadening participation in computing. Some that we have in our college are Girls Who Code, ACMW, and I mentioned the new organization, Blacks in Technology. We have a whole list on our website about student organizations and clubs, and some of them, you know, as you can see here, really are focusing on broadening participation. And then lastly, you can reach out to me for information about currently the types of affinity groups already in the college or in the engineering as well. We have some students that participate. Is this me as well? Okay, so moving on next, another activity that, you know, several people are already doing, but we can expand upon is diversity focused conferences. So there's some things that we plan to do in a college to broaden our students' participation in diversity focused conferences. Part of it is going to be offering scholarship workshops in early spring of 24. So planning really ahead for all the early fall conferences. So these conferences can include like Tapia or SACNAS, Grace Hopper. There are some also in the spring. And so having, if you as a faculty member have wanted to be involved in this or getting the information from the college about what's going to be involved in these workshops, so you can share them with students that you already might be working with. Also, you might want to consider securing funding to provide students in your research labs to attend or participate in these conferences. Or, and then lastly is to accompany students to diversity focused conferences. So this is already, you know, several faculty, this is, you know, practices that are already being done, but we could, you know, potentially expand on it, and the college can be a little bit more of a support as well. Yeah, Arch Report and Stars celebration, NCWIT conferences, exactly.
Lauren, I have a quick question. So for securing funding, the third point that you have, what would be like a good NSF avenue to apply? Like, I'm not familiar with how to get funding for something like that.
So I was thinking when I was creating this, and honestly, Manuel would probably be better to speak from an NSF angle, and he will be back in February, like full-time available to answer these questions too. But I was thinking more of like if there was a possibility when you're looking at grants and you know, preparing a grant proposal and thinking about maybe having money available to send students to participate in conferences if possible. Then I was, you know, we also can work as a so on a much smaller scale, but like as a college, we're going to be trying to provide more funding for students to attend diversity focused conferences. Trying to think of ways that we can maybe connect with business partners who could potentially fund some students, and then also through just the college, but that'll be much more limited.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I add to that, Lauren?
Yes, please.
I was at NSF for a while too, so I can put my Manuel hat on for a few
Good. No, thank you.
So anyone who has an NSF grant in CISE already from that directorate can apply for a supplement that will do any of these activities, even if it's not related to the research project that was funded. So if you can think of something that you want to do, take some students to a conference, do some outreach, any of these activities that align with our plan, you can apply for a supplement. The supplement is limited to 20% of the total amount of the grant. But the important thing is it doesn't need to be related to the research you got funded for. Similarly, in your own grant proposals, you can request funding for these activities, again, even if they're not related to the research in the grant. So Mira, if you're not sure about that, if you want to contact me afterward, what that could possibly mean, I can talk to you about it a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I'd like to add also that STARS, Tapia, and NCWIT have funding available for students, and they usually send those out in advance of the registration so that you can apply to have students supported. And it's usually quite substantial so that you can get them there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to the point that Audrey is making is that's why having some workshops to help students prepare applications so they can get funding from the actual conferences and we can get more students to participate that way would be great for our college, because we get lots of last minute, like month of Grace Hopper, for example, of I want to go, can I attend? And at that point there, usually the registration fees are higher, they're not the early bird rates, and then there's certainly no scholarships available left at that point through the conference. And I'm looking at all this stuff coming through the chats too and making notes, so I'll address that.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the chat because I'm never quite sure what I'm sharing. So Lauren, you stop me if need be.
Okay.
Activity 4 is inclusive teaching. So again, you can contact me to join a sense of belonging distribution list. For those that don't know, every year we run a data buddies survey. And we have really great response rate. So we have, I don't know, 1,000, maybe just under 1,800 students at least responded last year, graduate and undergraduate. So we have just a wealth of information, but hundreds of pages. So it's too much so I usually try to kind of break it down and see where we're significantly different, like AP Computer Science A, us versus other institutions. So if you want to kind of understand our students, where they think they're successful, what their dreams are, we've had some, positive trends in some underrepresented populations wanting to go on to their masters compared to a few years ago. There's just all this information, interesting information. So you can join a distribution list, and that is an annual report, and we'll let you know how our students are feeling on things like imposter syndrome or satisfaction with CCI, how often they meet with their TAs, and that's broken down by us versus other institution, our men versus our women, and then majority versus URM populations. There's also a lot of work being done for teaching assistant recruitment and training resources and procedures, and for that, we'll refer you to Mary Lou, who knows far more about that than I do. But if that's something you're interested in, Mary Lou will be able to give some information about that. In fact, I'll pause if Mary Lou wants to say anything here. And then lastly, I'll pause right after 4. Lastly, participate. There's a self-paced Canvas tutorial that basically is like a much bigger version of the Poll Everywhere quiz that we did, but it talks about our demographics, it talks about student success, and it talks about student satisfaction and also prep. So what our students come into our undergraduate program with. But besides the prep one, everything else also includes graduate students. So it's self-paced. It kind of has a quiz at the beginning just so we can see where our faculty are assuming our students are, and then we give you the answers right away. So you can see where our students actually are, how they're performing. So I'll go ahead and pause, Mary Lou, if you want to mention anything about the TA recruitment and training.
Yeah, just quickly, in case you didn't know, all of our TAs in with college are automatically enrolled in a Canvas TA training course. And in that course, they learn about sense of belonging and inclusive teaching. They also learn about active learning. They learn about academic integrity. And then next semester, they'll also learn about, there'll be a new module on responsible use of AI. So any TA you have has been enrolled in that. We get about a 60% completion rate. We should actually increase that number. So if you have a TA, you should ask if they've done the training. Oh, by the way, they also write really awesome reflective essays for that training. And we've been thinking for years, it would be fun to anonymize and put those essays into a repository so that you can dip in and see what our students are thinking about these topics, our TAs, what they think. It's really fascinating to read.
That sounds like another activity that someone can join in and doing. Sounds like a wealth of information. Great. And also, I'm sure, if we want to talk about increasing that participation rate, that can be something that you can work on if that's an area that you want to work on. How do we do that? Great. So I'll move on to activity 5, and that's Lauren.
Yeah, so with the Broadening Participation Computing Plan, you know, everything, all the activities are faculty will. And so this one is connected with undergraduate research. And so something happened last Friday that I want to bring up. So I'm going to skip to number 2 is that there's certain things that you can do to kind of broaden participation in undergraduate research. And one of them is kind of doing an open house event for students to learn about your specific projects. So 3 labs did this in the computer science department this past Friday. And I was blown away this weekend when I sent an email to see kind of how it went overall, because it was from 2:30 in the afternoon until 5 p.m. It was framed as trigger research, which we totally got from another university at Tapia as an annual event. But it was a drop-in session to go anytime during those hours to visit labs. 3 labs self-organized and prepared this, and they had, each lab had about 100 students visit, like flow through, mostly undergraduate students, but then also even a few graduate students. It was really successful. So I was shocked because that was also the day that we had a football game. So I was like, wow. So it was really good participation. I think that just really shows that our students are interested in undergraduate research. And also it was really framed as, you know, you could come in knowing nothing about it or these labs. And this is like a very like, you know, low stake environment for students to go and to learn about what some of the research going on. So that's one thing. So offering maybe more information sessions, poster presentations within your lab, poster symposiums. You can also do, you know, bioinformatics does an end of the semester a poster symposium. So that's something if you wanted to get involved with as faculty to plan within your lab or broader, do with other faculty as well. And then there's staff support like me that can help with like the logistics of it as well. Also participating in summer REUs, hosting students in your lab. And then another thing that you could do is participate in mentor training. The graduate school here offers mentor training a few times a year. I will say that it's limited participation. So you have to, when those emails go out from the graduate school about the mentor training available here, I would really encourage you to jump on it quickly because they do fill up. So this was just some ideas that we came up with to connect with this activity. I think I'm the next one too. Okay, another activity that we brought up into our BPC plan was around inclusive service. So we kind of, this one's an interesting one. So it says faculty will help develop and improve a data collection process for us as a college to kind of understand participation in inclusive excellence activities. So inclusive excellence is the language that the university uses for, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion. So for the time being, we weren't sure really how to go about collecting this information because there's a lot being done, you know, like already in the college. And so we created an inclusive excellence inventory form that is also through on our website under DEI About Us faculty resources. There's a link to a Google form to kind of just share any information that you're already currently doing about, you know, I guess broadening participation in computing, or we can say inclusive excellence. But then also we could, you know, we were very open to faculty, you know, being more involved with it, how we do collect this information. And so this is just a starting point. And then we also were thinking about ways for inclusive service. Again, mentor training, that's an error on the slide, sorry about that. But also there's several workshops that the Center for Teaching and Learning does that focus on inclusive practices within your classroom. So there's those workshops available for you to participate with. And if you were interested in kind of coming up with a data collection instrument to gather information about what faculty are doing already, feel free, please do contact me. We are looking for the best ways to collect this, as this isn't something that's collected at the end of the year reporting.
Oh, Audrey?
So just to clarify, I think what you just said was that it isn't being collected at the annual reporting.
No, so
why
like at
not?
the, like
Just wonder why, if I might ask, this is part of our college plan, why isn't this being rolled into our regular reporting infrastructure?
I think this has been talked about for quite a few years. So maybe what needs to happen is maybe something at the faculty level needs to be like, we would like to get credit for all these things that we do. So I think a lot of it is maybe from the staff side. We don't want to make it sound wrong that you're going to get punished for this, or that there's a lot that's kind of, I think faculty, and I think that's why it's worded this way. This would be really powerful if faculty said, hey, let's actually push to request this. The other thing, I know it was brought up with just the political environment. What does it look like? How does it sound like? What are we actually asking people? Is it a requirement? So that type of thing needs to be fleshed out. And I think this is activity 6. Let's flesh it out.
Yeah, definitely the climate of trying to understand some things around inclusive excellence in higher education in North Carolina, I think is a very big piece of why this isn't something that's like at this point explicitly asked for. And then all the other reasons Colleen said as well, and also especially not wanting faculty to feel like if they were not involved in some of these inclusive practice, like deliberate activities for broadening participation in computing, that you wouldn't get penalized for it. And so, but I think it would really need to be a lot of faculty buy-in for this to be something that were to be added to a faculty annual review report.
In my opinion, if you're writing about your year, put it here, like don't go to a separate place to do something. So in that way, I think it's easier, but we just need, I think buy-in is a good word. Faculty led, I think, would make it successful.
And so are staff engaged directly with this, or can they fill out the inclusive excellence form as well?
So that should be for anybody in the college. It just goes to me, and so it's just me wanting to know what's happening. So and then there were some questions too amongst conversations with associate deans around this and chairs, and well, what type of activities should be submitted through this form? Anything. If there's no right or wrong, it's just a way for us to understand. And also, some of this stuff is service and should be acknowledged as that. I think we have a dean who's really supportive of these broadening participation in computing activities. And so I think it would be great for the good things you're doing to help our students be successful. It would be great if we could see them and acknowledge them. Yeah, Mary Lou.
So some people might not know what to do. Our Center for Teaching and Learning has some good stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff out there, like that inclusive STEM teaching course that I took and had my PhD students take. But a lot of faculty don't know where to find these. Do we have a place to share, like a repository or just a Google Doc for sharing?
Yeah, so we can now. So especially now, we're just starting to build out, I'm aware nobody at all goes to the CCI Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion website page, but I'm hoping that since I would like that to be the space where there is area where faculty can go to find these types of activities if they're interested in. So if anybody has anything and wants them on that website, most recently we put on, it was a NC Wit had tips for conducting faculty searches with an inclusive lens. So I added that link. So there's at the bottom of the page is links to just resources. And right now there's just the advanced office and the NC WIT as well. But yeah, I mean, we can put anything, you know, on this page, because this is meant to be like the go-to spot where faculty and staff can use.
Yeah, and just for clarification, the Inclusive Excellence Inventory form, anyone can fill that out, faculty, staff. BPC, just so you know, has to be written faculty will. That doesn't mean staff can't support and staff can't, but just so you don't, BPC is very specific that it is faculty, but that doesn't mean staff aren't involved in everything. All right, we've got one more activity to review, and that's our accessibility audit. This one I have a lot of links. Contact me, I'll send them all in an email. There is a link here for a ton of accessibility readings, and literally anything that you might be interested in. I'm saying it's like, I don't know, 40, 50 articles that you can read. And so again, we try to build in kind of like scaling participation. If you've got a weekend and you just want to read something in the morning, that's participating because you've engaged. So we have a whole list of readings. In that accessibility readings link, it's actually a Google form. It lists, and you can link straight from that form to the article. But it also says, hey, at the bottom, tell us which article you read. And this is great information for us. And it says, was it impactful? If we have, 10 faculty say, hey, I read, I don't know what, putting accessibility into my mobile app development class or something. If everyone loves that article, we might want to highlight that, spotlight it in some way. We don't know that if every faculty read a great article but never told each other that it was great, we just don't know that that one was worth spotlighting. So that's what that link is for. It'll give you the links to the articles, but it also says, hey, come back and let us know if you actually read it. Then there's also a little bit deeper, you can conduct an accessibility audit. And there's a link to the Access CS for All, and it'll give you instructions for an audit. It's like a checklist. There's different sections of that audit. So for example, you can audit your class. Everyone can do that. There's no such thing as overlapping because you all have different courses. However, there is like audit your facilities. We don't need 20 people auditing Woodward. So that's why I have kind of like this link to assign yourself. If you like, hey, I would love to do this, just kind of look around a bioinformatics building and make sure things are accessible, assign yourself that so we don't have 5 people doing that for no reason. So that's what the assign yourself is, nothing more than making sure. But if you're just going to do your class, do your class. And then lastly, there's an accessibility audit survey. So literally the audit is a checklist. If you found problems but don't tell anyone, it's never going to be solved. So the survey, again, super low stakes. Just go ahead and say, hey, with the facilities, I noticed this issue in Woodward. Someone should know about that, and we'll actually get the data. So if this is something you're interested in, reach out to me. Many layers of involvement, either from just reading something to looking at your class, to looking at our facilities and that type of thing. So there's a few different levels of involvement that you can have. And all of these things I do want to kind of mention, you'll notice as we've discussed them, like there's been some more ideas, like, Mary Lou saying, hey, we have all this information, all these responses from TAs, we haven't done anything with it. So even with this, don't feel like if it's not written out specifically, it doesn't count. Contact us if you want to say, hey, I want to do something related, but maybe a little bit different. Great, let's go ahead and make these richer and more interesting. Kind of related to that, this is on Lauren's website also, this survey. We have a survey that just basically says, what do you think about the BPC? What would you like to see next time? It gets updated every 2 years. If you need a few months to update it, you can imagine, and it takes a few months for it to get approved. It's actually a really quick turnaround. So don't feel like it's too early to give feedback. When it's time to update this, we'll go to the survey and just see what people have, what they've thought. But also we'll see about no one contacted us about accessibility. Maybe we don't do that next year. Or next cycle. So think of that when you participate, make sure that you're kind of I don't know, making your participation known. So we're like, wow, this was really important to a lot of people. Let's keep this, or let's develop it further. So, you know, that's even like the accessibility readings. If no one does any, we're not going to put that on again. Like or we need to promote it more. So this is a way to give your feedback. Lauren, do you have anything?
Yeah, I love that Colleen made the feedback tool, because when we were going through kind of like at these workshops and creating the plan, you know, it was just a few of us that there was a lot of plans that were started. That was a good place to start. And there's consultants we worked with that helped us talk through like our context. But also we just knew that we weren't gonna, it's limited to 2 pages, this plan too. So like there was only so much that this plan was gonna be able to hold as far as our goals went and our activities went. And we had to include the context of like UNC Charlotte and CCI. So it was really limited. So I think my biggest takeaway from this particular session is that this is the BPC plan. Yes, it can be used for some you know, CISE proposals. However, it's also a really good guiding point for our college to think about broadening participation in computing and go beyond the scope of the limited definition of that through NSF, and then include more of the students that, you know, we serve also here that that go beyond that. So, you know, that's all we have prepared for you today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you both so much for this really exciting collection of resources and things that we can do to showcase what activities we're all participating in already. And I appreciate your response to an unintentionally naive question about why we aren't reporting this. I'm in this BPC space so often I forget sometimes that the language can be, you know, represent some challenges for others. But I want to open it up the discussion for everyone else, but while people are thinking about what questions or comments they have, could I take the links that you have provided in your slide deck and like put a highlight together of like, these are the things where you can find resources or submit information and put them out to the CEIR listserv? Would that be something that I could do? Because a lot of people, if I can give them like here's the place where you can fill out your inclusive excellence form, and you know, here's like where you can look at reading lists and things like that.
Well, to make it easier for you, could we, if you're okay with this, Colleen, just share this presentation? There you go. Like Colleen just dropped it, the slide deck, because then you just have the links right in it.
Yeah, I will also share that as well. I think
Okay.
so they don't have to go through and pick
Yeah.
it out. We can just share it with
Sure.
them.
Absolutely.
And ways that we may help for buy-in. How else is this getting communicated? I'm sure you're telling everyone at every meeting that you can, but I haven't seen anything in our department meetings yet. Is this something that's just getting rolled out?
It was at our faculty meeting.
Okay, it was at the
staff
big,
meeting.
which I missed. Okay.
Yeah, so it started there. So okay, so when we were at a workshop with other universities, and one university, I forget which one it was, but they came back to do the workshop, and they're like, well, we actually already have an approved plan, you know, and we're still within the first 2 years. However, nobody uses it. So we're back at the workshop this year, so people know, like, to figure out how we can get people to use this. Which was interesting because the workshop didn't really focus on that, focuses on actually just like the creation of the plan. But I think for like conversations with Colleen, Ahmed, and myself were about, yeah, how do we roll this out? So it was announcing it at the faculty and staff last meeting. Some messages through the CCI faculty listserv. Ben Wells talk 2 weeks ago, and then this one today, and then yeah, we haven't gone beyond that. I don't know, Colleen, am I missing anything?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, you know, I do think possibly getting this rolled into the faculty annual review would help, just like, hey, remember there's this, did you do anything? You know, no pressure, you know, would be good messaging, kind of a passive message. So that might be, you know, activity number 6 will roll into activity 1 through 7. So But other than that, yeah. But you know, this meeting is really to help people understand it's not just if you're involved in NSF. This can be faculty service outside of that specific BPC type thing, that this is college-wide, you know, part of our strategic plan. So yeah, if there's any ideas, and specifically if one of these activities maybe works for someone's class or someone's talk or a departmental, you know, talk, you know, we can pull it out and just talk about one activity instead of doing this rush through 7.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
And hopefully this talk, at least for the ones that I'm involved, I wanted faculty just to see what would it look like. Oh, well, I'll put you on an email. You'll get data. We'll talk about it. And in the summer, we'll, you know, strategize just to kind of see what does this mean instead of just, I don't even know where to start. We will start you off gently and we will let you expand or contract as you need.
I'm going to read out the question that Jalsha posted in the chat about our college having an annual review template for faculty. And I know that we use the faculty activity reporting FAR, right? And is that standardized across the whole university, or do we have our own?
I think it's CCI, is that right?
Okay.
I think I've heard, because Lauren and I have started kind of like, how would we get into this? How would we change? I think Joe,
Yeah,
our Joe is the one who manages it, which makes me think it is not university wide, it's college specific. I don't know who's in charge of approving changes.
So it's an interesting question because, you know, we have somewhat standardized student evaluation feedback forms for our courses, but each college can, you know, change those. And with the faculty reporting, I don't know. I can tell you that it focuses on those 3 things, you know, teaching, research, and service, and it's boxes, and you put your things in and you can upload a CV. I don't think it connects to like any, you know, like science, with the one that NSF uses. I think you have to manually put them in every year, Jalsha. So I'm not sure what other colleges do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this time, the faculty activity report FAR is still managed at the college level. So I think Joe will be able to change the template. What I hear from Joe is the university is trying to centralize that part as well, just like everything else. And if that is the case, it'll be a separate story. So we don't know when that will happen. Maybe not for the next year, but for the coming years, they're definitely trying to.
That's interesting.
Centralizing the FAR activity as well.
Yeah, we'd hate to make something beautiful to have it taken away.
Well, I also, this actually just like reminded me of something.
Yeah, but yeah.
At the university level, they will eventually, there's an inclusive excellence plan that has been like written and they've been planning to roll out. Like I've been hearing about this since last spring. And I think just it's going through like a lot of, it's like legal's reviewing a lot of things for like the language in it. And I think that's what's been like the holdup on the rollout. But I think there might potentially be a piece of that where they also want to capture the inclusive excellence activities being done in the college. So that might give some leverage to adding that to our end of the year reporting, but I don't know because I'm not sure when this is going to come out.
Yeah, and there's you know, a lot of, I think we have always kind of said in meetings, it's really to capture what we suspect is already being done. And so it's not a gotcha for faculty or an extra service. It's like, I think you're already, and because the activities are so diverse. I mean, if you are participating in a book club that Lauren does, you know, yes, that absolutely counts because you're, you know, discovering new perspectives. And so I think that messaging also has to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by the student poll that you did at the beginning, because I feel like our student body has shifted dramatically in the last few years. I to a more traditional population of students, maybe, you know, the younger students instead of you know, I think, don't we have a lot of transfers that are adult learners? So I was surprised by the statistics. I got most of the answers wrong. And so I'm very excited about the get to know your students thing because, you know, operating on assumptions just isn't effective when you're trying to teach and engage with students. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, there's you know, there's really fun information that we know. For example, our community college students don't graduate 2 years for like an equivalent of 4 years, 2 years here, 2 years here. But man, they make up the gap for the 6-year graduation rate. There's no difference between our first-time freshmen and our transfer students. They make up the gap, but they also have different set of circumstances. It's great to understand that maybe they have other responsibilities that prevented them from entering as an 18-year-old full-time. But there's a lot to celebrate there. And just because we look different than other universities, that's great. We're taking students that maybe don't have the opportunities that other institutions, their students have, and we're getting them to the end goal where they need to be. And that's a lot to celebrate, but we also need to be cognizant of the challenges and differences in our students.
Well, I'm aware of the time. We just have a minute left. Are there any other questions or comments before we head on?
And thank you. Please reach out to Lauren or myself. We'd be glad to talk about anything here.
Absolutely. And share with colleagues.
Thank you, Colleen and Lauren. This was really informative and really exciting. So I hope to take advantage of your resources in the near future.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And Audrey, I saw your message and can I catch up with you about the stars thing later? Yeah, I don't see why not. I think that's awesome. That would be
Thank
great.
you.
So
Audrey, I'm glad we were on the same page.